Hey you! If I had to guess, you're probably a teen. And at this stage in your life, you put high value on cute shit, like holding hands with a girl. And I can't blame you, girls are great for the most part, but a lot of you are willing to hop through more hoops than you should to secure a cutie. And girls use this leverage they have all the time to manipulate you. But for you to understand to what extent they do this, you need some background knowledge. So let's watch an educational video to fill you in. Through the process of natural selection, human beings chose having big brains over strong muscles. Why? Well, let me put it this way. A large human being can bench press about 250 pounds. A large chimp, about a ton. If it weren't for spears, we would still be in Africa getting our skulls pummeled in by 4 feet tall Kimbo-sliced meat wagons. Luckily, we developed brains that were capable of rendering physical prowess useless through technology. Primitive men were able to defend themselves with spears instead of fighting barehanded with the 130-pound shit-flinging death machines we call chimpanzees. Which is a real travesty if you think about it. The laws of nature clearly state that the weak should fear the strong. But with those survival tactics, we've been able to subvert nature so bad that a depressed anorexic like myself lives to see another day. And that's just absurd. Biologically speaking, I have no right to exist. But I digress. How do all these things correlate with the topic of the video anyways? I'll get to that in a jiffy, cockface, but for now, imagine yourself as a cave woman. As a possessor of a uterus, you hold complete power over your caveman counterpart, because without you, he can't reproduce. And if you have surface level knowledge on how hierarchies operate, once you get to rule over someone, you immediately start trying to figure out how much you can exploit them before they get pissed off and run a pole through your asshole. So, say that you want to eat a fruit that is on top of a tree. Due to your weak and retarded woman body, you can't climb a tree for fuck. What do you do then? Well, you ask your man to do it. Considering you have procreative blackmail on your side, you have some leeway in the area of persuasion, but he isn't your slave. Yet. Having that in mind, your task is to bargain with your pussy enough so he'll do it. You have to be nice enough so that he doesn't think to himself, wow, I'd rather jack off than to deal with this ape cunt. But you also can't just go all out and blow him for the fruit either, because that'll spoil him. So how do you balance the two? Well, by now you must have noticed women have high-pitched voices. That happens because having a high-pitched voice guaranteed you success in the mating game if you were a woman, meaning that you are more likely to convince your man to get that fruit for you without much of a sacrifice. However, there still are women with deep voices. According to market theory, they must have attracted men in some other way. So if you're a girl with a deep voice, it's likely that your primeval ancestor did anal. But why should you give a singular shit about anything I just said? Well, if you don't, you'll be giving all your money to some girl who makes ASMR ear-licking videos in no time. And I know you might tell yourself that you're just being nice to her by donating to her Patreon, but let me tell you something. It isn't altruism if your dick's hard. If you're splurging cash on League of Legends skins for a girl, you're not being cool and generous, you're in a findom arrangement and you haven't noticed it. If you're currently in a situation like that, it's probably because the e-girl or school acquaintance you're being a servant for used the aforementioned ooga booga caveman tactics to manipulate you. And being the weak-minded beta male that you are, you fell for it. A hopeless struggle after all, because you'll never get to handle her sweet fun bags. Much like Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill, you'll never accomplish your task, so the units you measure your progress with will become more and more absurd. You begin striving for dating her and end up rooting that she sends you a kiss emoji when she tells you goodnight. You progressively settle for less, and since she knows you'll keep being her little manslave, she doesn't even have to lend you her reproductive functions. So nowadays, when a girl convinces some frail manlet through the power of her delicate voice to do all her homework for months, and at the end of it all says, can we just say friends? All the guy does is listen to Hobson and complain about how he was friend-zoned on Reddit. That's just nowadays though. If we were back in 300,000 BCE, or if you live in Saudi Arabia, the woman gets the short end of the bargain. Short end of the stick if we're talking about Arabs. I guess these days in our progressive society, taking anus by force isn't appropriate thanks to the goddamn Democrats. I've seen people be nostalgic about the 80s. I'm nostalgic about the Paleolithic period, where you could knuckle fuck a dyke into blue hell. No questions asked. You might think this stuff is so abstract that it'll never affect you, but this tendency manifests itself in your average high school whore. Probably the one you're fawning over right now. I know, it's hard to believe these mastermind manipulation tactics are practiced by some high school broads, but believe you me,
by some sort of Salem witchcraft they do it. And if you haven't seen it yet, you will. Even a 5 out of 10 girl can have an army of guys doing her homework, carrying her books around school, and even fucking tying her shoelaces for her. All in the hope of one day making some sort of romantic progress. And by romantic progress, I mean getting up in her guts. A friend of mine witnessed it firsthand. A girl offering a peck on the cheek in exchange for a history assignment. And the funniest part about that entire hassle? Not a single one of the boys who composed that squadron of beta males got sexually rewarded. Of course. At best, all that work resulted in an opportunity to caress her head for a couple of minutes. And that's that. This is where idiots draw from when they complain about how girls aren't into nice guys. They worship her feet, and after months of degrading themselves and becoming subservient dogs in the girl's eyes, they're flabbergasted when they don't get any pussy. You've probably heard it a million times and disregarded it because it's too big of a bulldozing bench pure truth bomb for your tight little butthole to handle. But the friend zone doesn't exist. You're just a faggot. Just because one dime a dozen girl in your school turned you down, you create this whole ideation in which the girl is just a dumb hoe who's missing out on all your glorious niceness because she dates bad boys.
So why do good girls like bad guys? I had this question for a real long time. I'm a bad boy and it's plain to see. So why do good girls fall in love with me?
What that concept misses is that her potential whoredom has little to do with your pathetic simp behavior. Even a 70 IQ leg spreader is capable of recognizing how sad your predicament is. And the girl you crush on who's really cool and cute and rocks your world. I know you think she's special, but here's a pro tip. Just because she likes anime in the 1975 doesn't make her any more special than the whores in yoga pants who like Ed Sheeran. I'm sure this will go into one ear and come out the other because you enjoy being her private jester since you're a freaked up sex case, but trust me, your average teenage art girl is about as disposable as a journalist.
But why does a man's self-worth depend on the affection of some airhead with big tits? I mean, yeah, getting laid is good for your status and you want to be able to raise a family eventually, but is that ham-sliced pussy you're getting worth all the humiliation you're putting yourself through? I've seen the kind of college pseudo-dyke behemoths you guys lose your minds over, and I'm not impressed. Not to be some kind of MGTOW, no hymen, no diamond purist, but the kind of e-girls you guys are worshipping have gotten trains ran on them. Doorknob women, everybody gets a turn. I know I'm slut-shaming or whatever, but it's genuinely appalling. This is why I can never truly understand the incel community. You gotta have cognitive dissonance if you think you're gonna find a worthwhile partner chasing these sarlaccs on Tinder. It's partly your own fault that you perceive all women to be the devil incarnate. Given the kind of girls you'll find in an American university might corroborate that worldview, but as long as you're keeping yourself in good condition, likelihood is you'll pique someone's interest. If General Sam can get a wife and knock her up, you can too. In any case, trust me that dating isn't great enough for you to have an existential crisis over. There's other ways to fix loneliness, like finding traps on R9K. But seriously, I have very little sympathy for these guys. I know epithets like beta cuck are stale and overused, but they're fitting. You get the right image when you hear those. I can't feel bad for someone who's willing to sacrifice their dignity for a pretty face. Even if you think you're too repulsive to get a date, it's better to just go jerk off to DeviantArt inflation hentai if that's your thing. In moderation, you madman. It's really not worth it. So, you get the message. Boo-hoo! Poor men are becoming betas and are being manipulated by women. But let's talk about what's really important here. What we, women, can do with this leverage. If you've ever read the Scum Manifesto, you already know that establishing a matriarchy is the most reasonable goal that women should be striving for. Now we've got men wrapped around our fingers with the nationwide tolerance of hypergamy, abortion, putting career over family, and obviously the fact that men are all pigs. Women, after all, are much smarter and better at decision-making than... Women, after all, are much smarter and better at decision making. That becomes obvious when you look at all the successful matriarchies in the world. Women of the world unite. We shall take control over the government, round up the most ideal men in reproduction farms, and leave the rest to be our slaves. Of course, all of the CEOs will be female. We would run the companies way better and the economy would flourish. How hard could that be? Women are equally aggressive, assertive, and wanting of high-stress careers as men because they can handle periods. And that's just as stressful. Men will never know what it's like to experience childbirth. And we all understand that if you can't push a bowling ball-sized object out of your passage, you just don't have what it takes to run a country. That should actually be the test for becoming president. Hey Trump, can you push a bowling ball out your asshole? Oh, you can't? Hashtag not my president. The Chinese just successfully made same-sex rats breed. To the men watching this, you are already all introverted femdom cucks. When are you going to become obsolete? My answer is right now.
Slob on my knob, like corn on the cob. Check in with me and do your job. Let's run a train.